Brother 25's here. Let's go. Season 25 is upon us. We are almost there. Tomorrow, August 2nd at 7 p.m. Central, we're going to get the first episode of the season, which is going to be 90 minutes long. And then as you can see behind me here, there's also the live feeds. And that's the countdown for 1 day and 10 hours, which means tomorrow at around 11:30 p.m. Central, we'll have the live feeds and Big Brother will be back in motion for the season, which is super exciting. So this year's house theme is the multiverse. If you haven't seen it yet, CBS put out a skit where Brittany Haynes, Daniel Reyes, and Frankie Grande broke into the house and used a time laser to try to go back and save themselves in their seasons and take out the evil alliances, and then everything goes wrong. The time laser splits the house in half, and we get kind of a really cool theme for the house. So originally it was just wood and blue and kind of very basic looking, and now the entire house looks like it's been struck by a laser, and there's comic book themes everywhere and all sorts of blasts from the past. So that's really exciting as well. Okay, so in this really cool theme of a house, we've also got some really notable rooms, starting with the Have-Not room, which has some interesting beds. There's one that looks like it's hanging from the ceiling by chains, so if you sleep on it, you could like swing or something. And then there's also a block of cheese, or kind of like a cutout piece of cheese, and then also a hot dog bed. So some very uncomfortable looking situations. There was also a video where Julie Chen was doing a walkthrough of the house with somebody, and then as you're leaving the Have-Not room, you have to spin the wheel and then stand in front of like a boot, and then you have to kick yourself in the butt a bunch of times, however many times the wheel says. I don't know, it should be interesting, and I'm excited to see it. Moving on to the other notable room that's really fun is there's like a horror themed room, and so the windows have like these hands crawling all over them, and then the entire thing looks like a hospital of sorts, but like a rundown hospital, and there's some hospital gowns in there. There's all sorts of like vials and jars of gross things in it. It should be a really cool season because they're playing into the fact that we're going into the fall, so there's a lot more Halloween themed things, which could make the season even more fun. Okay, so let's dive into the cast list because that's one of the more exciting parts of Big Brother. They all have their own unique features. This is a cast that is probably the most unique and also probably the most knowledgeable on Big Brother. So in past years, it seems like we've gotten a lot of Instagram models or people who are just doing it for the clout or the fame. But this season seems to be more your average Joe, more your people that are actually looking to be competitive and play the game and not just get more followers. So that's what's really exciting, but let's dive into the cast. Okay, so starting with America, who's an Ivy League graduate who works as a medical receptionist. Her big thing was that she's going to hide that she went to an Ivy League school. So didn't get much else other than that. Next, we have Blue Kim, who's a strategist, well, a brand strategist, but says that she's going to hide that because she's worried that the word strategist will scare off some people in the house. She seems to be an alternate of sort, though. So from the clips that we got, she was in a different room. All of her prompts seemed very scripted and well rehearsed, which means we didn't get to see who she actually was. So as we dive into the house, we'll see more of that in the coming days. Next, we have Bowie Jane, who's an Australian-born DJ and also had a past life as a lawyer. So we could see a lot of really interesting kind of things come of that on whether or not she's going to be a great social player. Maybe she'll be great at manipulation. Who knows, but excited to see what comes of it. Next, we have Cameron Harding, who's just a chill but intelligent and well-spoken stay-at-home dad. He seems to have just kind of this way about him that he's going to be able to make his way through situations and make a lot of friends in the house. Next, we have Corey Wurtenberger, who's the brother of a Survivor Season 42 contestant. Corey is just so well-spoken. He's also super goofy, very well likable. One of those interviews that I wanted to watch a couple of times just because it's exciting to see that somebody like him is going to come into the house. Next, we have Felicia Cannon, who is the oldest woman to play on Big Brother at 63 years old. She has retired twice, so she's trying to kind of hide that information because she said that she gets 2 retirement checks. So there's some of that playing into it. But now she's a real estate agent. She says she's super personable and she's excited to interact with people and worried that at the beginning she'll get voted out. But if she doesn't get voted out for being the old person in the house, she thinks that she's going to go a long ways. And we've seen this in the past in season 10 with Jerry, who is the oldest person to ever play this game at 75 years old at the time, and he made it all the way down to bottom 4. So there is some excitement there. Next, we have Haisam, who's a 45-year-old geriatric physician psychiatrist. I don't know, it made it a little bit confusing between the blogs and his interview, but he seems to have a lot to say, but a lot of what he was saying was pretty intricate. Like he's strategizing out a ways, and he's also pulling a strategy from an old season where he wants to get together with another person, but then work from the middle of the house on two opposing alliances. So like if you have Alliance 1, Alliance 2, each of them are on their respective alliance. That way they can sway the vote and move it outwards. I think it's great in theory. I think it's super hard to pull off. And I think this level of Big Brother and this day and age of Big Brother may not support that kind of strategy. Next, we have Izzy, who's a 32-year-old professional flutist who just recently started watching Big Brother in January this year, but she claims to have seen almost every season twice, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, especially with season 1 being like 70 episodes. But I'm excited to see how she does, especially as she has all this recent information. She might be able to kind of play off of what Big Brother usually does and maybe have that step above everybody else who's a fan for a long time, so hasn't seen those older seasons as recently. Next up is Jag Baines, who's the first Sikh house guest on Big Brother US. He is 25 years old and an entrepreneur. He talked about a lot of businesses, one of them being, I believe he said he owned a gas truck company, which is kind of crazy for his age. I'm excited to see what that means and how he's able to kind of maneuver his way through the house. He's also super likable. Just watching his interviews, you wanted to be his friend, which means that a lot of the people in the house may want to be his friend as well. But we'll see how he acts in the house. Next up is Jared Fields, who is super exciting because he's the son of Sari Fields from Survivor. She played on Survivor 4 times, and then also she played on Traitors with like Cody and all of them recently. And her gameplay on Traitors was insane. So the fact that her son is coming to this game, and I'm sure she's coached him up, it'll be really cool to see how he plays and what he brings into the game that's maybe different and more Survivor-esque or more Traitors-esque than Big Brother. Next up, we have Kirsten Elwin, who's a 25-year-old molecular biologist. Her big thing was that she's going to hide the fact that she's a biologist. I think she said that she was going to say that she designed swimsuits or something. So I think it'll be interesting to watch her play. But other than that, from her interviews, I really couldn't gather a ton of great information on kind of how she's going to play. Okay, so Luke Valentine is a 30-year-old illustrator. His was almost the most frustrating interviews to watch just because he talked so much but said so little. It felt like he was kind of talking in circles. It felt like he was saying what Big Brother wanted you to hear. It really felt like he was still in his casting process and not actually giving us insight on how he's going to play this game. So he'll be one to watch out for, and I don't think we'll know much about him until the actual season starts. Next up is Matt Klutz, who is the first hearing impaired contestant on Big Brother. He competes at the Deaf Olympics. He is a gold medalist. He's super fit. He seems to have a fantastic personality and very well spoken. I think he's going to be a major threat in this game. Okay, next up is Nicole Hayes, who's a 30-year-old political consultant. She seems like she's going to do very well. She's very well spoken. You can tell that that background of being in the politics side of things is really going to help her. I'm interested to see how she plays, and I think she's going to make it well towards the end. All right. Next up is Red. Red is a 37-year-old dude who just reminds me of Donnie from season 16. He just kind of seems like he's gonna be a lot of fun to watch in the feeds. I think he's just gonna make the house fun. He's gonna be fun to follow around and kind of just see the conversations that come out of it. And then finally we have Reilly Smedley, who's a bartender from Maine who now lives in Tennessee. It seems like she could be a good strategist, but other than that, I just really couldn't get a lot from her interviews. It felt kind of hit or miss. I think some of it felt kind of almost rehearsed in a way. You could tell at times that she would like switch it off and then like really be serious, and then other times switch it back on and be more rehearsed. So it'll be interesting to see how she actually plays the game. Overall, my top 3 picks for this year are going to be Corey, Jared, and Nicole, and I think Corey will take home the $750,000. Could be wrong, but I just feel it.